Hi, everybody. It's me, Peter. I'm the guy who runs the Believe English Facebook page. And tonight I'll do a live for about an hour. We'll see how many questions we come up with to talk a little bit about how to learn English. I've gotten some questions already, and you can see them in the introduction to the live. And I'll start going through those questions, and then I'll look and see what other questions you might put in the comments. My name is Peter. I'm from the United States, and now I live in Kyoto, Japan, and I teach at some universities here in Japan. I used to teach English in high schools in the United States for immigrants, for people who were coming to the United States and they're 14 or 15 years old, and they had to learn English before they could take the regular classes. And then I moved back, and then I moved over here to Japan. And now I do what I can online too to help people like you. So I want to look at some of your questions. The first question that I want to think about is somebody said that they're too shy to ask questions. And I understand that. I understand being shy, and it is hard. And finding that strength, the willingness to speak up and ask a question can be difficult. There's two things that I thought about that can help a lot. One is to help a friend. I'm kind of a shy person too, and there's a lot of things I will not do for myself. If I were traveling in Vietnam and I needed to know, like, how much is it to stay in that hotel? I'd be a little bit shy. I wouldn't really want to go in and ask the people at the hotel, how much does it cost to stay there? But if somebody else asked me, I speak a little Vietnamese, and if I was sitting in a cafe and another foreigner asked me, hey, can you tell me how much that hotel costs? I would be willing to go into the hotel to ask for the other person. For me, somehow that helps me get past my shyness. So one thing you could do if you were shy is do things for a friend. So it's not really about you, and you don't have to feel shy. You feel like I'm helping my friend. The other thing to do is to trust. Trust other people. People are nice and people want to help you. And you can be shy and people will accept that, and they'll still work with you and talk to you and help you figure out what you need to do. So shy is cool, be shy, and then help each other, help people, and help yourself. And we'll work past that. A similar question that I was asked was how to be confident. How to be confident when you're speaking English. And that's part of that is shyness. And part of that, I think, is people mistrusting their own language abilities. And they think, oh, I'm going to make a mistake, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to talk about that too. I'm going to post the question there. How to be confident when you're speaking English. One answer, of course, one of my big answers is to believe. Believe in yourself. When you are speaking English, you're just trying to express yourself, and that's a good thing. And when you're talking to people in English, you're talking about your ideas, and you have good ideas, and you have good intentions. You're not trying to trick somebody. You're trying to talk to them and reach out to them and understand them. And I think that can give you confidence to know that you are doing a good thing, to trust yourself. You're trying to help me. I don't speak your language. I only speak English. And for you to reach out to me in English is a great kindness, and you should feel good about that. Even confident. You're doing something good. You're helping another person. You're doing great. Be confident. Sometimes you want to be confident, but you have a lot of ideas in your heads. And this is another question that a person asked me, and they said, I have a lot of ideas in my head, but I don't know how to express them in English. So they feel frustrated. The ideas are stuck in their head. And I understand that too. And I have a thought. Maybe you can't express your ideas. Maybe you don't have the vocabulary yet or the grammar. But you can begin to express your ideas. You can show somebody that you're trying to say something. You can give them a big picture. You're talking about food. You're talking about yourself. And begin to express your idea. And this goes back to trusting people. People will listen to you, and people will help you. People will help you find a way to express your idea in English. They'll give you vocabulary words. They'll ask you questions. Are you saying this? Are you saying that? They might begin to supply some answers. Are you telling me you're from Vietnam? Did you say you're from Hanoi? And they're giving you answers. They're helping you to express your ideas. Oh, you don't like cheese because cheese smells funny? Because cheese gives you a stomachache? They will help you express your ideas. You can always begin. If people are listening to you and they see that you are trying to say something and they see that it's difficult for you, people will help you. So yes, you have great ideas, and it may be difficult to express the idea right now, but you can begin and you will learn and get better and better at expressing your ideas. I'm Peter. Hi, I see some new people are coming in. Thanks for joining the live. I'm Peter. I'm from the United States. I used to teach English in high schools in the United States, and now I teach English at universities in Japan. And I am the guy who does the Believe English Facebook page, which is what we're on now. I'm going to talk tonight about how to learn English, and some people already gave me some questions, and we're kind of going through the questions. You can see the questions in the introduction to the live. I'm going to keep standing up and put the questions on the wall behind me too, so you can follow along. And if sometimes I'm speaking too quickly or I'm using words you don't understand, you can kind of know the main topic, the thing we're talking about. One person asked me also, I think they were saying, I only want to study, or I only can study English for 6 months. And what can I do in 6 months? And my answer is, in 6 months, you can learn enough. You can learn enough English to show people that you're trying. You can learn enough English to say hello. You can learn enough English to be friendly to people, to let people know that you are interested, and to ask for help. So if you do want to understand more in English, in 6 months, you can learn enough English to say, I don't really understand. Can you say it this way? Can you use these words? You might also learn after 6 months that you really want to do more with English. And you might learn, hey, I will make the time to study English more after these 6 months because I think it's important to me. You might also find after 6 months, I don't want to learn English. And that's okay. You don't have to learn English. There's a lot going on. And somebody asked about, oh, good, this is the next question. Somebody was asking about pressure, academic pressure and peer pressure. And you might feel like you have to study English because everybody else is studying English. And a little bit because that's where some of the good jobs are, but not all of the good jobs. And you can create your own awesome job with your own language and your own excellent ideas. So 6 months can give you enough time to begin, to know if you want to keep studying English and to show people that you're trying and to let you be able to ask people questions to learn more. And then as you ask them questions, you'll start studying by learning what they say about your questions. But there is an element of pressure. I have to study English. And that's one question another person asked me about the difference or the similarities between academic pressure and peer pressure. Pressure's hard. It's very stressful, and studying is really stressful. And I know you guys and my students here in Japan, sometimes you have to take very, very important tests. And there's a lot of stress and it's a lot of pressure. But one of the things about academic pressure is that this will pass. You will get out of school and you will go on with your lives. Some of you will use English in your life, and some of you will not. This academic pressure is temporary, and it's for a very temporary goal. I need to get this grade. I need to pass this test. And it can help. If you can pass the test, if you can get the grade in the short term, that can help you sometimes get into a school that you want to get into or get a job. But it goes away. And then you live the rest of your life and you do other things that are much more important to you, including being with your friends, with your peers. And that kind of pressure is different. That peer pressure is very personal. Right? I have to do this to belong to this group of people, and this group of people is very important to me. So it's hard to think clearly about peer pressure because it's very emotional. Academic pressure, you can choose. I'm going to do this. I'm going to study this many hours. I'm going to set a goal to get this number of points on my test and try to meet that goal. And then the goal is gone and you go on with your life, with your peers. And then you have peer pressure to deal with. It feels really hard right now when you're doing the academic stuff. It feels overwhelming. I know that. It's really hard. It's really stressful. And it goes away. The peer pressure is much more difficult if it really is pressure. Hopefully you find really good people who support you, and the peer pressure is good, like acupuncture, and it makes you stronger and better. And I hope that that's true for you and your friends, and that you offer that to your friends. Give them pressure, but give them good pressure. Sometimes we don't have any peers and we have to study alone. And I got a couple questions about that. And one was, which is better, to study alone or to study with a partner? Uh-oh, my tape. So I want to think about that, and I'm going to put the question up on the wall behind me. Hi, new people. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I'm Peter. I run the Believe English page. I'm from the United States, so you're hearing American English now, and I teach English in Japan. One person asked about studying alone or studying with a partner. One advantage of studying alone, well, one reality of studying alone is you may have no choice. You may have nobody who can study with you. And then, well, you got to study alone. One thing that can be good is you can really focus. You can focus on the very particular things that you want to learn. If you just want to do reading practice, you can just do reading practice. If you just want to learn 100 vocabulary words, some very particular words, nobody's going to ask you to do anything differently. You can set up your own schedule. You can create your own pace. In some ways, there's a lot less pressure. Maybe there's even not enough pressure when you study alone. It's kind of easy to stop studying. And that's one thing that studying with a partner can do. A partner can help us with good pressure. They help us remember, hey, we were going to do this by tomorrow. We were going to learn these 100 words by the end of next week. How are you doing on that? I've gotten 20 words learned already. How many have you gotten learned? And maybe they can help you. Maybe there's a couple words that are really hard for you, and your partner has learned them, and they can think of a way to explain those words to you. So partners can give us a lot of help, and they give us perspective. Partners can see things that we can't. They can see mistakes we're making, and it's very difficult for us to see our own mistakes. So we really need a partner at some point to look at our work and review it and help us see where we are making mistakes. And partners can help us keep pace. How am I doing compared to somebody else? How can I help that person? And when you help another person, you learn a lot about the language and a lot about yourself. If I could choose, I would want to balance. I kind of like doing things by myself, so I wouldn't mind studying alone. And I've done a lot of studying alone, but then I like to go out and use the language. I don't usually use it with a study partner. I happen to live in Japan, where I can just go out and speak the language. And sometimes I travel to Vietnam, and then I use Vietnamese with Vietnamese people. So they're not really study partners, but they are checking my language, and they're letting me know the mistakes that I'm making, and I'm making a lot of mistakes. But if you are going to study on your own, and this is the next question that I was asked, how do I do that? If I'm studying alone at home, what do I do? And this is my suggestion. If you are going to study on your own, the most effective way, the best thing you can do for yourself is read books. Reading books is great for many, many things, including studying on your own, because then you're not really alone. You're with the person who wrote the book. That's what a book is. It's a very long text message. Somebody wants to talk to you, and they're expressing their idea to you in a book. When you read a book, not the internet, but a book, you're looking at much better quality English. Books are written very carefully. Things that are put on the internet are not written very carefully, and you will see many, many mistakes. And you might begin to think that they're not mistakes. And you don't want that to happen. You want to read good English. And books will give you those kinds of examples of good English. Books are longer too. And so books will give you much more thoughtful ways of using the language. And books are different. Man, holding a book in your hand is really wonderful. And getting lost in a book is a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So I would really encourage you to read a physical book so you can really be present with the book. When we're online, like right now, and I can see people kind of coming and going from this live stream, the number goes up and down and people come in and out, and I understand that. And that's very easy to do and very normal to do. And we do it when we're reading online too. We go away from what we're reading and we look at something else. And maybe we come back and maybe we don't. So reading online isn't really reading. It's sort of passing the time until you feel like doing something else. Studying alone at home can be pretty hard because we need a lot of self-discipline. A book will help give us that discipline and that focus. We can't leave the book. So studying on your own is reading books. Read, read, read. And reach out sometimes to people. We all need help at some point. So don't study at home and then reach out to people with what you've learned and see how well you can use it. Watch for things that you need to fix, go back and study some more and fix them, and then reach back out to people and see how well you've done. Part of that is learning new vocabulary words, and that's a question I was asked as well. How to learn vocabulary. One person said just how to learn it, and one person said how to learn vocabulary better. And I don't really know the answer because I don't know what you are doing right now to learn vocabulary. So the first thing to do for yourself, if you want to think about how to learn vocabulary, is to think about what am I doing right now? Maybe what you're doing right now is awesome. Maybe it's really, really good and you don't need to do something different. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If you feel like you need to do something differently, or you feel like maybe you're not doing anything at all and you're sort of lost, the first thing to do, read. Read books. Books are full of vocabulary. That's all they are. They're words. Books are meaningful and they give you context for the vocabulary. And a good book, you're going to want to understand it. So you're going to want to learn those words. Read books. You can even read children's books. I love children's books. Children's books tell wonderful stories. They tell them in very clever ways. The language is quite beautiful. And children's books are short, so you get the satisfaction of sitting down, starting a book, and finishing the book at the same time, and you feel like I did it. Sometimes when we read the big, big books like the Shakespeare books, we begin them and we never finish them because they're very long and it's hard, and we give up and we stop reading that book, and eventually sometimes we just stop reading because why should I never finish a book? Why should I read? It's cool to read children's books, especially in a new language. You really need to practice, and the children's books will give you the simpler vocabulary. And as you get better, you can read longer and longer books. You could also read poems. Poems tend to be shorter. Sometimes the language gets pretty but you pick some simple poems or some sort of poems where the language is more under control, maybe Robert Frost, and I'll put some comments up later with names like this, or Carl Sandburg, and their poems are more like people speaking, and they don't get too crazy with the grammar. That's pretty much English, like the way we talk English. You could read song lyrics also. They're short. You can read the whole lyric in one sitting and understand it and think about it and learn from it. When you do learn a new vocabulary word, you got to use it. You got to do something with it. In English, we say use it or lose it. If you learn the word and don't do anything with it, you will forget the word tomorrow. As soon as you learn that word, tell a joke, sing a song, play, have fun with the word. It's not a test. The test is later, but this is you. This is you studying English and you living your life. And we all want to be happy. So when you learn a new word, find a way to be happy with the new word. I like to make really terrible jokes. I make jokes. Nobody understands them. Nobody thinks they're funny. But I understand what I'm trying to do with the language. And it helps me remember the word and what the word is supposed to mean. I also love to sing songs with new words. I do it with English too, and I do it a lot on Believe English. So if you look at the Believe English Facebook page or the Believe English YouTube channel, you will see song lists of me singing songs with words, including some songs about how you can sing a song using a new word. One of them is Happy Birthday with the word cat. And if your English is very beginner level, you can do simple things with cats. A cat has 4 legs and a tail. That's very simple. If your English is more advanced, you can use very complicated words to talk about cats. Cats are diurnal, but they've been domesticated to be nocturnal. Whoops, cats are nocturnal, but they've been domesticated to be diurnal, I think. Domesticated is a very tricky word. It means people train the animal to do something. Nocturnal means the animal would like to do all its stuff at night, and diurnal means we've sort of trained the cat to behave and be awake in the daytime so that we can play with it. So those are very complicated words, and if your English is very advanced, you can still sing a happy song using tricky words. So play with the words that you learn and enjoy them. And when you have fun with them, you're going to want to play with them some more, and you'll keep using them, and you will remember them. So don't be shy. That was the first question from way long ago. Somebody asked a slightly different question, but I think it's kind of the same question because instead of using our mouths, we use our hands. And that question is, how do I improve my writing? And I'm going to talk about that now. So hi, new people. I'm going through a list of questions that's at the beginning of this live stream, the introduction. Some questions people ask me about how to learn English. Looks like maybe I'm halfway through. I'm going to go through these questions and then I'll look through the comments. And if you have asked a new question, I will try to answer that question as well. My name is Peter. I'm the person who runs the Believe English Facebook page. I'm from the United States. And now I live in Japan and teach English at some universities here. And in university, we do a lot of writing. And one person asked how to improve their English writing. And my big answer is read books. My answer to a lot of questions is read books. Reading books is just great. It's a great way to improve your thinking in any language. It's a great way to improve your English. When you read books, you are looking at good writing and your brain is paying attention. And your brain is thinking, hey, I want to write like that. And hopefully when you read books, your brain is coming up with a lot of ideas too. Hey, I really disagree with that person. I think they're wrong because, and now you have an idea, an important idea that you want to express. And you have the language. You see the language that the person who's writing is using, and you use that language back at them. And you put some negatives in front of, I don't, blah, blah, blah. I dis, blah, blah, blah. It's great. Read books. Read books and write about what you read. There are some small strategies you can do. One place to look is on the Believe English Facebook page on a computer. there are little tabs. There's a tab for videos, and then the videos are organized in playlists. One of the playlists is writing, with some ideas about writing and kind of sentence level improve your writing, which is combining sentences. I like donuts. Donuts are delicious. Put those two sentences together. I like donuts because they're delicious. Donuts are delicious, and so I like donuts. And making sentences longer and longer, but start with something very, very simple. So that's a sentence level piece of writing you could do, but the big picture answer to how to improve your writing is to read books. Read. I love reading books. When I'm done doing this live stream, I'm reading a book. I'm going to sit down and read a book for a little bit, maybe, except it's really late at night. I'm tired. Maybe I'll just fall asleep. We'll see. Okay. Another question I got, and this kind of gets us away from the books and the reading and gets us into something that's very important to many people from Vietnam, and that's about grammar and pronunciation. One person asked me, what do I think is sort of more important to focus on, grammar or pronunciation? My answer is find some balance. You need both, of course. You need enough pronunciation so that when you speak, people can understand what you are saying. Personally, I don't think you need, and I don't think you can sound just like me. I think you will have an accent. Just about everybody I know who came to the United States after they were about 10 years old, I can hear it in their voice. And this includes people who are now 50 and 60 years old, and they've been speaking English for 40 years, but their first language is still there. And I think it's beautiful. I love it. I love hearing that in their voices. It just sounds great. And it doesn't stop me from understanding them at all. They speak English, and they have this wonderful sound. Just like when people who are not from Washington, D.C., where I'm from, they hear me speak, I sound different. When I hear people from New York City, they sound different than I do. Their pronunciation and my pronunciation are not the same. People from England do not pronounce English the way I pronounce English. So some pronunciation is important. One sort of standard that I like to promote, and it's something you can do if you're studying alone too, and people have asked about this, is talk to your computer. We now have these computers and these phones that have voice recognition. You can search Google with your voice. You can talk to your phone, and your phone will write down what it hears. And you can see if your phone can understand you. If your phone cannot understand you saying some words, probably a person like me will not be able to understand you either. So your phone or Google search are great places to begin. And this includes Google Translate. Many of my Japanese students go abroad and they use Google Translate and they talk to their phone. And sometimes their phone then does the talking for them and translates it and speaks in sort of computer English to the person they're talking to. I don't like that. I like them to read it as text, and then I would like them to say those words so that when they're talking to another person, they really are. They're not having their phone talk to that person. But it is a way to check your pronunciation. Minimal pair drills, having another person listen to you and show you, not tell you, but show you what sounds they hear, is another great thing to do for word level pronunciation. And there's a lot of stuff on the Believe English Facebook page. You really need to look on a laptop. It's impossible to search on a phone, which is frustrating. Or you can look on Believe English YouTube page. And the movies are all organized in lists, and there are things about pronunciation and minimal pair drills. So we need some basic level of pronunciation, and then we do need a basic level of English grammar so that we can organize our ideas in a way that other people can understand them. Simple grammar. The big one for people is verb tenses, talking about the past in the past, talking about the present in the present, and the future in the future. A good way to do this is to read mystery books. No, I'm back to reading again. But read. I'm trying to think. When I was a kid, a very good, very short and quick and easy to read set of books was a bunch of books called Encyclopedia Brown. Each mystery in Encyclopedia Brown was maybe 3 or 4 pages long. So if you can find those books, and I will look after the live stream to see if I can find them, they're really good. They're little mystery stories, what happened. And when you read a mystery story, you really have to pay attention to the verb tenses. Who did what first? Who did what second? When did this happen? When did that happen? Mystery stories are great for really getting us to focus on the language. So with grammar and pronunciation, it's both. And I wouldn't fight myself and kill myself to be perfect in either, because you won't be. And we'll get to that a little bit. I'm looking through my list of questions. There's 2 questions down for now is about native speakers and how we speak English, and we don't speak it perfectly at all. So find some balance, and find a balance that's, that's something that's really enjoyable for you. If you focus too much on pronunciation or grammar and you hate it, you're going to hate English, and you will stop learning English because it's frustrating and not fun. So find balance in that sense too. The purpose of improving your pronunciation and purpose of improving your grammar is to try to sound kind of like me, to speak what we call fluently. And that's a question somebody else asked me, how to speak English fluently. Hi, I see a lot of new people. Thank you for joining. And I do see one person's question about asking if I teach high school now. And the answer is no, Diamond, I don't teach high school now. My name is Peter. I'm from the United States. I used to teach high school in the United States, and now I teach English at universities in Japan. And I do what I can here online at Believe English. I'm going through a list of questions that is at the introduction to the live stream. And as soon as I'm done, I got like 4 more. Then I will look through the comments and see if there's some other questions that you have asked just now, and I will answer those too as best as I can. So one person asked me how to speak English fluently. And my answer is to be yourself. Be you, and let the language do what the language does. That's a kind of fluently. It doesn't mean that you're speaking English perfectly. It does mean that you are expressing yourself comfortably in a relaxed way. Sometimes people try to speak fluently by writing everything down on a piece of paper and memorizing it and then reading that, or speaking it from memory, and you can see them looking into the air, trying to look into their minds and what did I write down? And it, on paper it might look fluent, but when you listen to somebody speak it, it sounds like Google Translate. It sounds like a computer talking to you, not a person. And be yourself. Use the language that you have. It's your idea. You know kind of what you want to say. You might have a little bit of a problem with how to say it. What's the vocabulary word? But you can't be wrong. It's your idea. Just let it out and be yourself, and that will give you a kind of fluency, using the language that you are able to use comfortably to talk about your idea that you understand. Do it. Just do it. Just be free. That kind of freedom is a kind of fluency. And you will see that with native speakers, sometimes in a not such a great way, like our current president, Donald Trump, who's a very fluent speaker, and he really is trying to express his ideas, but he's not expressing anything. The man never completes a sentence. He never completes an idea, but he is a fluent English speaker. He gets a little bit ahead of himself, and you got to watch for that. And that kind of leads in to the next question I was asked, which is about native speakers, and do we use a lot of slang when we are speaking? And the answer is, look out, hell yes, we do. We use lots and lots and lots of slang, and for somebody who's not a native speaker, it can be very frustrating because we also use a lot of mistakes. A lot of things that native speakers say are not correct. And that includes when we write online. If you look at comments on YouTube videos or things that people post on the internet, which is why I don't think you should read the internet, you will see a lot of slang and you will see a lot of mistakes. And that is true when we speak English. We make a lot of mistakes. If I were to transcribe what I'm doing right now and look at it in writing, I might feel really bad about myself because I'd be like, oh my God, did I say that? That's wrong. I'm making a lot of, hey, Kevin, I remember Kevin. Kevin was a student of mine way back in Wheaton High School, which is awesome. It's nice to see that he's here. And maybe he can tell you all about the mistakes I made when I was teaching him. So we do use a lot of slang and we make a lot of mistakes. And you need to be ready for that. That will happen. If you go to study abroad, you'll be exposed to that. But you'll pick up on it because a lot of the slang we use again and again and again and again and again. Kind of the same 5 words. Usually they're bad words like shit, 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 shit. And you'll hear that again and again and again. And you'll start using it. It means that whatever we want it to mean. So we do use a lot of slang. I do not so much. I think and I hope right now while I'm talking to you, I am not using very much slang or very many idioms. But that's because I teach English and I speak to people every day in my kind of teacher English. So I'm a little bit more used to speaking without the slang and sometimes slowing down like this. Other times I get too excited and I start talking faster and faster. But we do use slang and we use a lot of mistakes. So be ready for that and don't be afraid to ask. And this is the next question and it would tie in directly to, do we use slang? Yes, we do. And how can you understand it? And the answer is often you cannot understand it. So you need to ask. But when you ask, you want to ask something meaningful. You don't want to say, I don't understand. Because if you say, I don't understand, I'm going to kind of think, well, you're not listening and I'll stop talking to you. So when you're listening, tell me what you do understand. You say, hey, Peter, you're talking about learning English, right? Yeah, that's right. What did you say about slang? Tell me you heard the word slang. And oh, okay, he's listening. She's listening. And she heard me say slang. And I'm talking about slang and I need to explain it again. And then I'll talk to you about slang. Tell me first what you understood. And then ask for clarity. If it's a vocabulary word or some slang you didn't understand, tell me, what's that? You said talking shit. What's that mean? And I'll say, oh, well, it means this. And particularly if you're talking to a teacher, they'll kind of realize right away, oh, of course, that's slang. I'm using slang and I need to use standard English. And I'll repeat the slang in standard English. When you're listening to people, you need to show people that you are listening. And you do this by summarizing, telling people what you heard them say. Interrupt them if they don't stop. Find a place to stop them and say, hey, this is really interesting. You're telling me about when you went to Saigon for a trip, right? Now you've stopped me. You've kind of captured the main idea of whatever I'm saying, given it back to me. So I know you are listening. You also know that you are listening to me and you're not thinking about tomorrow night what you're going to do. And then I can start again. If you're really careful, you can ask me a question. So if I'm, you say, hey, I think you're talking about a trip you had to Saigon, right? And I say, yeah, that's right. I went to Saigon. And I go away and you say, oh, cool. When you were in Saigon, did you go to this place? And now you're directing my conversation. And you know my next answer will either be, yes, I went to the zoo and I saw the elephant. Or if you ask me about the zoo, I'll say, no, I did not go to the zoo, but I did go to the opera center, the opera house. And you can keep steering the conversation that way by telling me what you heard, asking for clarity if there's a word that you think is really important that you couldn't understand or you didn't know. Tell me that. I don't know this word. What does it mean? And then ask me a new question for some new information. What did you eat when you were in Saigon? And that way you know what I'm going to say next. I'm going to talk about food. And you can control the conversation, and that will help you listen a lot. And that's kind of about being comfortable with the person you're talking to. And you need to also be comfortable with the language. And that was a question that I was asked as well. How to be comfortable with English. It's not your first language, but when you are using English, you are talking about your ideas and what you want to say. So the way to be comfortable with English is to be comfortable with yourself. And this is a point I was kind of making back at the beginning of the live stream. You are a good person. You are using English to be kind to another person, me, somebody who does not speak Vietnamese. You are telling me your ideas, and your ideas are good ideas, and you have good intentions, and you should feel good about that and be comfortable. It's me. I'm telling you my ideas, and that's great. Now, you're trying to do it in English, and that is hard for you, and you're still trying. And I appreciate that, and thank you. And so be comfortable. It's about you and your ideas, and you're trying very hard to express them in English. The English will kind of take care of itself when you show that confidence in yourself. This is me talking to you, and you're a nice person, and I'm a nice person, and we are going to have a conversation. When there are English problems, language problems, we will help each other. If I don't understand you, I'll stop you for a second and ask you to say it again. And hopefully I will tell you what I heard you say and say, I didn't understand that word. You said you went to where? You said yesterday you did what? Yesterday, I didn't hear what you did. I heard you were talking about yesterday. So I'll kind of do for you what you can then do for me when you don't understand me. So English can be difficult. But when you use English, you're using it to talk about you and your ideas. So be comfortable with that. You're a good person and your ideas are good. And that's great that you are willing and trying to share them with other people in English. So be proud and be comfortable and use English to help other people. That's a good thing. Now, maybe you want to use better English, and that's cool too. And that's the last question that I had before I started the live stream. So in a second, I will take a look and see if you guys got some new questions. If you don't have any in there yet, throw them in the comments section and I'll look through for them. This is the last question I got before I started the live stream. And this is kind of an important question, how to stay motivated. And I see that as a teacher. Many of my students are not motivated. They do not want to be learning English. They're kind of, and this is a peer pressure. One of the earlier questions was about peer pressure and academic pressure. They're in college because you're supposed to go to college. That's what you do. But they're not in college. They're somewhere else. They don't want to be there. And they don't want to be learning English. And often they are not learning English because they're not motivated. They're not interested. They're just present. I'm here. And that may happen for you too. You're kind of learning English because everybody else is learning English, because you're supposed to learn English because, I don't know, it's what they told me to do. And that's not good. And maybe you shouldn't be learning English. Maybe you don't want to, and that's okay. You don't have to learn English. You already speak one wonderful, beautiful language. And there are, I don't know, 800 other wonderful, beautiful languages in the world that you could also speak. So you don't have to speak English. There are lots of people who don't, and they're really good people, and they're leading very good lives. And you can do that too. So be kind to yourself. If you want to learn English, that's great. You can do it. If you don't want to learn English, That's great too. And you do not have to learn English. Don't kick yourself and make yourself learn English, because you will not learn English. You'll just make yourself, and be unhappy, and you will learn how to be unhappy. And we don't want to learn that. So be kind to yourself and respect yourself. You are a good person, whatever you are doing. If you do it in English, that's nice. If you do it in Vietnamese or Japanese or Spanish, that's nice too. That's good. Respect yourself. This is what you can do, and this is how you can do it. And if you want to do it in English, it is very difficult, especially if you want to do it professionally. If you want to use English in a job, working for a bank or something like that, the quality of your English has to be pretty high. And that's difficult. And as you are studying, it can get very frustrating. And you can get really tired. And it's okay to take a rest. Be kind to yourself in that respect too. Study and learn, but take a break and rest and sleep. Sleeping is really important. Some of my students never sleep. And if you never sleep, you never really learn. You keep throwing things into your brain, but your brain it's not keeping those things because your brain is desperate for sleep. And you would be amazed when you have a really good sleep and you wake up the next day. Shocking how much stuff. Where did that come from? It came from resting, from sleeping. These things you thought you didn't know, if you sleep and let your brain kind of settle. A lot of those things that you have in your brain, but you can't find them, they will settle into a place in your brain where you can find them. Sleeping is really important. And just taking a rest, take a day and just take a walk. Look at the flowers, do something that you want to do. Be kind to yourself, respect yourself, the limits of what you can do, and be happy. If you're not happy, what are you doing? One thing you're not doing if you're not happy is you're not learning. You're just being unhappy. And your brain is not going to learn things in a meaningful way when you're unhappy. Your brain's going to be like, yuck, yuck, yuck. What's this? Yuck, yuck, right? If you're happy, your brain's like, oh yeah, give me more, right? Ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. I want it. So as you're learning English, find ways to be happy. For me, that's singing. If you look at the Believe English page, there's lots of singing. It makes me happy. And you don't have to sing well. You just sing because I'm happy and it makes me feel good. Why not? It's okay. It's not a contest. We're just being happy. Woo! Sing. Tell bad jokes. Write stories. Post in Instagram and Facebook with little funny English captions. Whatever makes you happy. And read. Here we go. Read. Read books that make you happy. Whatever you are interested in. If you're not interested in it, you're not going to do it. You will stop. So find things that make you happy and then think about them in English and talk about them in English so that you're not trying to learn English. You're trying to learn more about this thing that makes you happy. I'm really interested in animal intelligence. What do animals know and how do they know it? So I might read about that in Vietnamese or Japanese. So it's not really the language, but it's the thing that's meaningful to me. And for me, also, that's always children's books. I love picture books. I love the way they can take some very complicated ideas and very important ideas and make them very simple for children. And as it happens for me, when I'm reading Vietnamese or Japanese, they also make the ideas very simple for me. And I really, really enjoy reading those books. And so I read them and I read more and more and more. And I learn more Vietnamese, I learn more Japanese, I learn more Spanish, and I'm happy. I want to learn more. I'm so excited. Tomorrow's Saturday. I can go to the bookstore and read another book. It's really cool. So to stay motivated, respect yourself. Respect your limits. It's okay sometimes to take a break. Respect yourself and be sure that you're doing what you want to do. Maybe you really don't want to learn English and you shouldn't be learning English. So don't. Do what you want to do, what you should be doing. Be kind to yourself. Rest. Be kind to yourself and do things that make you happy. And you can do those in English. You can sing songs in English. You can read books that are interesting to you in English. And if you are around a lot of foreign people, you can make some friends in English. And that will make you want to learn more and more, to talk more and more with your friends. So thanks so much, you guys. These are the questions that I got before the live stream. I'm going to look through the comments now and see if there's a couple more questions in the comments. If you're just joining, I'm Peter. I'm the guy who runs the Believe English page. I'm from the United States, and now I live in Japan, where I teach English in universities. So let me see how I do this. Oh my goodness. Okay. How to deal with the problem. Levan was asking, oh no, where'd it go? The question just went away. All right, here's another one. Sorry, Van. Sorry. It just kind of went away. Which is the best topic? I'm not sure. Yang was asking this about which is the best topic, and maybe the answer is the best topic is the topic that you are interested in. Whatever you're interested in, that's what you will pay attention to. And it may be the topic of learning about flowers or learning about cooking, or it may be the topic about focusing on English pronunciation or focusing on English reading, because that's interesting to you. I think that might be what topic means. And the answer is the important topic is the topic that is interesting to you, because you will pay attention to it. Whatever is important to me, you're not going to pay attention to it because you don't care. And you shouldn't care. It's important to me, not to you. Figure out what's important to you and then find ways to think about that in English. I have difficulty, Allison asked, I have difficulty in finding ideas when speaking. Guess what? Read! Read books. Books will give you lots and lots of ideas. Books are other people's ideas. This is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about it so much, I'm going to write a book about it, 100 pages. I'm going to print it, and when I die, I'll still be talking about it, because 100 years later, people will be reading my book, which is me talking about my idea. So read books, and you will see ideas. Some of them will not be interesting to you, and that's fine. Some of them you'll disagree with. Some of them you will agree with, and you'll start talking. Oh my God, this is wow, this is so cool, and you're going to want to talk about it. And that can be your topic. I read this book yesterday. I saw this the other day. It was really interesting to me. And you'll have lots and lots of things to talk about. Oh, here, I think I got, sometimes when I'm trying to express an idea in English, I'm stuck because some words I don't know how to translate. Okay, don't use those words. Use another word, or use a visual image, or use a comparison. If you don't know how to talk about horses, maybe talk about dogs, or talk about the function, the thing that the horse does. If it's how to ride a horse, and you don't know how to do that, you might know how to talk about riding a motorcycle, and start there. Talk about riding a motorbike and say, I'm trying to think about how I would do this on a horse. And the other person who's listening to you can help you. If they know some horse words, they'll teach you the horse words. If you don't know the word, you can use 7 different words. You can kind of, we call it circumlocution. You can kind of go, well, I can't do this on the computer. You can go in a circle. If you don't know the word for key, you can say the thing that helps you open the door. And the person who's listening might go, oh, a key. Now you know the word. So don't let that stop you. Say everything that you can, and where you get stuck, people will help you. This is kind of being confident in yourself, so you're comfortable trying to express these ideas. Even if you don't know the vocabulary, you know the idea, and it's a good idea, and it's an important idea because it's your idea. You get started, and we will help you express your idea better and better. How can I understand foreigners? This is a little bit about listening. And one way to do that is to tell foreign people what you heard them say. And I see one question down, they speak too fast. Maybe I'm speaking too fast right now too. one thing to do, and this is the same thing, is stop us. But stop us nicely, and stop us by telling us what you heard us say. Oh, you're talking about how to understand foreigners, right? That's right. That's what I'm doing. And that feels really good. If you tell me what I'm saying, basically, if you repeat me, I know you're listening to me, and that feels really good. Sometimes people stop you not to repeat what you're saying, but to tell you their story. So you might stop me. I'm talking about how to talk with foreigners, and you will stop me and say, oh, I met this guy from China yesterday, and now you're telling your story, and I don't get to finish my story, and I feel bad. If you stop me and tell me what I just said, it's still my story. I feel really good. I know that you're listening to me. You have stopped me, so you slowed me down. You have also told me what you think I said, so you're checking, and I can tell you yes, or I can tell you no. And now you get to ask a new question to kind of control my conversation. It's my story, but you're going to point me in the right direction, so you know what I'm going to say next. So the way to understand foreigners, the way to slow them down is to talk back at them, talk back at us, or talk with us. Tell us what you heard, and then start asking us new questions. And you control the conversation. How to study vocabulary words. Read, and then play with the words. Use them, play with them, put them into songs, put them into poems, into riddles, look for them in books when you're reading again, and the words will stay with you, but you've got to use them. That's why songs are nice. You can just sing the song again and again and again, and you don't need a context for how do I use this word. I'm just singing my song and having some fun. Use the words you learn, play with them, be happy with the words. If you're trying to memorize 100 words, yuck, that's terrible, that's awful. You're not going to do it because your brain is like, yuck, 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 I don't want to do this. But if you're singing a song, your brain is like, oh, cool, we're singing a song, let's sing some more. And you can sing songs with your 100 vocabulary words, and then you'll have them. And hopefully you like singing and you'll be happy. Some books that I find useful and meaningful. I really like children's books, and I'll put in the comments the names later after I've finished talking. Shel Silverstein writes a lot of great books, or wrote. He's dead now, but The Giving Tree and The Missing Piece are really thoughtful books. The Little Prince, which everybody seems to know, is a wonderful, wonderful book, and it's very easy to read. I like William Saroyan. He writes some short stories that are a little bit hard to find in the United States. I find them easier to find here in Japan. When I have been in Vietnam, I did not see them in the bookstores, but there may be a way to get them online. The Mysterious Incident of a Dog in the Night is a kind of easy to read story. It's a mystery, and the language level is nice. It's not too difficult, and I find it a very interesting story. And if I think of some more, I'll throw them in the comments. English, great. This isn't really a question, but this is what we were talking about earlier about staying motivated. English is very difficult, but this person loves it because it finds many things of interest for them. And that's certainly true, especially if you're on a computer all the time. Most of the things that are written online are written in English. So if you're in whatever you're interested in, there might be one thing about it in Vietnamese, and there will be 100 things written about it in English. Whatever's written in Vietnamese was probably written by another Vietnamese person. So you're kind of always getting the one perspective, which is good. But when you look at English, you find something written by a French person in English, something written by a Vietnamese person in English, something written by somebody from Argentina in English, and you get lots and lots of different perspectives. And that can be really exciting too. Do you fall in love with tangerines? Tangerines, the fruit. I really love mikan. Mikans are kind of like Japanese tangerines, and it's just about mikan season over here, which makes me happy. And no, if somebody said English is not as difficult as you think, and that's certainly true. Just saying hi to people is not so hard. If you want to make English very difficult, you can do that. But if you want to keep it simple, you can keep it simple. And if you can keep it simple, you're a genius. Our great writers like Ernest Hemingway, we celebrate because he kept his English so very, very simple. And now we think he's one of the greatest writers of English. How to improve listening skills. So here's one different idea for listening. And this is how, in a sense, a lot of people of my generation, we learned to really listen in English. Was I grew up in a time when we didn't have tape recorders. When we heard a new song on a radio, we had to sit down and listen to the song again and again and again and again and again to try and write all the lyrics down for the songs. So if we could, we'd get the record and come home and play the record like 100 times and write the lyrics. That's something you could do. The problem for you is now you probably find the lyrics or the song online, like on YouTube, and then you just see the lyrics and you don't have to listen to them. If you can find the song, put a piece of paper over your computer screen so that you cannot see the lyrics, and then listen to the lyrics and write them down. Have a friend look at what you wrote down and check. And your friend should not tell you, shouldn't fix anything you got wrong, but maybe they circle any word that you didn't hear correctly. So you know where to look, but you don't know what the answer is. And so you need to listen a second time or a third or fourth time and try to listen, and you know, okay, this is not what they said. This is the word I thought they said, and you can listen a little more closely. After you write down all the lyrics and you've done it and you really know the song, this is the fun part. You can go to karaoke and sing the song and see those lyrics come to life. Yeah, somebody said, don't be kind to yourself. Don't learn English. Yeah, that's an option. You don't have to learn English. Yes, just play with it. All right, so I'm going through for questions. One person said they're really interested in learning English, but they're not interested in reading skills. They just want to learn speaking and listening skills. And that's okay. That can be a little challenging if you do not live in a place where there are foreign people to interact with. One advantage of reading is you can do it anywhere. And if you're going to take a test, the test is going to be a piece of paper with a lot of reading on it. And basically you read the test. And then they ask you some questions. What did you just read? So in that respect, reading is great. But if you don't like reading, you don't like reading. If you like listening and speaking, you need to find a place that you can listen and speak in English. So you got to be in Hanoi or Saigon or, I don't know, Hoi An somewhere where there's a lot of foreign people that you could and would interact with. And you might want to get a job or find the places where the foreign people hang out and talk to them, or find the places where foreign people get lost, like a bus station, and go up and talk to them there. Some of the greatest, in a sense, the most fluent English speakers I've met have been little kids and adults who are trying to sell things on the street. They learn English because that's how they can sell their stuff. And they don't know how to read. They probably don't even know how to read their own language. But they sure know how to listen and speak in English, and they will sell you something. So you need to find a place to interact with people and go out and do it. Diamond asked if I teach online, and the answer is no, I don't teach online. I do post every day to Believe English on Facebook, and I do reply to every comment on Believe English. And inside of Believe English, there's a little group, Believe English Believes in You. The advantage of the group is that you can post your things there too. On a regular Facebook page, you cannot post something. You can comment, but you can't post. In my group and in other groups sometimes, and in my group always, you can post right away. You can put up a video of you speaking. You can put up your own questions right away. You don't need me to approve of them. They just appear. And then people in the group, including me, will respond to your question. But I do not teach online. It doesn't work for me. I like seeing people and really knowing them. And I am teaching also here, so I'm a little bit busy. Oh, somebody's living in Japan. Konnichiwa, konbanwa, konbanwa, ohayou gozaimasu. Oh my God, it's really late. Okay. So if you live in Japan, you got to learn Japanese. Somebody's asking my name. I'm not sure how long ago this comment came in, but that's cool. My name is Peter. I'm from the United States. Now I live in Japan and I teach English here in person. And I also am the guy that runs the Facebook page, Believe English, which is what we're on right now. And I post here every day something. And if you comment here, I always reply to every comment. So this is one place you can always use a little bit of English. Somebody said their speaking skill is really bad. That's okay. It will get better. It's good if you recognize it's bad and you kind of know, hey, I need to improve. What would be helpful for you is to figure out just one or two. Don't think I'm bad. Think about like one thing. It's really hard for me to make the ending sound of words, which is very common for Vietnamese people. Like that sings, the ending sound. Pick one thing that's difficult for you when you're speaking and focus on fixing that thing. And then pick another thing. And then pick another thing. And one way to do that also is with minimal paired drills, which if you look on the Believe English page, you will see some things. I talk about it a lot. And that's like you, do, and zoo, which often Vietnamese people will say, and they all kind of sound the same, like zoo, 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 zoo. But it's you, do, and zoo. And have people show you with their fingers, you, do, zoo, what they hear. And they don't tell you you're right or you're wrong. They just tell you, this is the sound I heard. And maybe you wanted them to hear this sound, zoo. And they say, I heard do. But they don't say it, they show you. And you go, okay, I need to change the way I'm making this sound so that people hear zoo. And you kind of mess around with your mouth and you fix it yourself. And that's one way to build up this word level pronunciation. My Facebook is this one right here. Somebody asked my Facebook. The place where I do all my English stuff is Believe English. My other pages, I don't really post very much there now. The only things I post there are the exact same things I post on Believe English. To get people's attention and, hey, come over to Believe English. That's where you really should be looking for what's going on with me and for things about English. Somebody's asking about, I am working in Japan and I am very interested in Vietnam. When I began teaching English, I was teaching in refugee camps for people from Vietnam who were in Hong Kong and the Philippines and Thailand. And I still feel a very deep connection to Vietnam. And I know many people there who are teaching now, and I go and try to visit them in their classes whenever I can. And yeah, I love it. Somebody's saying she writes and she listens, but she doesn't speak English. And that can be hard if you don't have somebody to speak English with. It's great if you're writing and you can listen fairly well. That's good. So when you have a chance to speak, you're really ready to go. You might go to karaoke and sing in English so you get used to making sounds in English. And singing is kind of like speaking. You're making complete sentences and things like that. And then when you can, find foreigners and just say something. Say hello, say welcome to Vietnam. I'm glad you're here. Do you need directions? Can I help you find something? Sometimes they'll say no, and that's it. And sometimes they'll say yes. And sometimes you'll start a conversation that could go on for several minutes. So try to create some opportunities. And don't be ashamed if you're not good at it. If you're in Vietnam and you're talking English to somebody else, you're really helping them out because they don't speak Vietnamese and they would love to have a chance to meet a Vietnamese person. And that could be you. So don't be shy. What's my first difficulty? Somebody's asking about what's difficult in Japan for me. For me personally, the most difficult thing is speaking the language very, very well. I can communicate my basic ideas, but there's enough mistakes in my grammar that when I really need to kind of be very specific, it's difficult. And people have to pay a lot of attention to me. And some people are willing to do that, which is wonderful. And some people either are not willing or they can't. And then it gets a little hard. But, you know, that's cool. We work it out. Somebody, I'm looking at another question. Somebody's, again, learning Japanese, but they want to keep... So they were at this is something that I do also for me. This person is living in Japan now, so he has to learn Japanese now, but would like to keep learning English. And one way to do that, and you can do this very easily in Japan, is to find a book about learning Japanese that's written for people like me, for English-speaking people. So all the answers are in English. Konnichiwa is hello. Ohayou gozaimasu is good morning. It's not jaoboi-san, it's good morning, right? And that will keep your brain looking at English. And I do this for me too. When I get a book about Japanese, I try to get one with Vietnamese text, so that when I read Ohayou gozaimasu, I read jaoboi-san, I don't read good morning. And that reminds me, oh yeah, jaoboi-san is good morning in Vietnamese. And that helps me balance the languages out. And that's what I would try to do if I were you. And it's very easy to do here. There's lots and lots of Japanese English books. Somebody asked if I have gone to Vietnam yet. I have. I've gone to Vietnam many, many times. I'm very lucky, and I'm very happy that I've had those opportunities. And I hope to go many, many more times. Oh, somebody said they'd like to hear about my experiences. That's a whole nother thing. And it's a very good thing. I've had very wonderful experiences in Vietnam and with Vietnamese people outside of Vietnam. And I'm looking forward to many, many more of them. And I'm really glad that all of you joined the live tonight. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful that you're learning English, because when I do go to Vietnam, I have fun in Vietnamese, but it's really great that there are people I can speak to in English, and that includes you. Oh no, I think it's about to stop. So I think I'm being ended by Facebook. My computer is asking me to do a lot of weird things. Thank you very much. I will write some names of authors and books in the comments sections that I mentioned today. And if you have more questions, don't post them here because they're really hard to find. Post them right into Believe English or into the group Believe English Believes in You. All right, that's it. Thank you all so much. Good night.